What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to be talking about even more new iOS 26 features and changes. We're going to talk about what to expect at Apple's September 9th event, why Elon Musk is suing Apple, major iPhone redesigns are coming, a crazy AirTag story, and more. Okay, so let's start by talking about what happened this week, because it was pretty exciting. So on Monday, we did see iOS 26 Beta 8 get released, which was not very exciting. It was actually a pretty boring update. If you watched my What's New video, you would know, but really nothing changed in the update as far as front end changes. There were a lot of back end changes, not even a lot, just all the changes were on the back end pretty much, because as I mentioned in that video, Beta 8 is very likely the final beta before the RC. So Apple's just doing a lot of bug fixes, a lot of, back end stuff in Beta 8 to get us ready for that final release. So performance, battery life, those are great in Beta 8. That's something we'll talk about a little bit later, but no complaints there. It was just a pretty minor update in terms of features and changes, so really nothing new to report on there. However, on Tuesday, that's where things got exciting, because that's when Apple unveiled their September 9th event, which is titled All Dropping. And you can see here from the visual, this is a little Easter egg as always. These interactive logos give us some hints as to what to expect. And this kind of emulates a heat signature, like you're looking through something like, detecting a thermal signature. So this could indicate that a vapor chamber cooling system is coming for the iPhone 17 Pro series, which we've heard for a while, but this does kind of indicate that. It could also be related to temperature sensing in the AirPods Pro 3, so we are hearing the AirPods Pro 3 are coming as well. This could be an indication of some type of sensor in the AirPods. And also take a look at the colors. It's orange and blue. Orange and blue are the two colors that we're expecting to see this year, the two new colors we're expecting to see this year. So the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max is going to get the orange color, and then light blue is going to be for the Air model. So there's definitely some hints there in the event invites, as Apple typically does. And as far as what to expect at this event, we're expecting the iPhone 17, 17 Air, 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, also the Apple Watch, the Series 11, and then also the Ultra 3. So we are expecting those. And then also the AirPods Pro 3, which we got some new updates on the AirPods Pro 3, which we'll talk about later on in this video. But those are all of the new products that are expected to get announced on that September 9th event. And we're most likely going to see the pre-order go up for those products on Friday the 12th, and then we should see a final release on Friday the 19th for all products. Now, switching gears completely, because Apple is getting sued by Elon Musk. Yes, that's actually happening, because he basically put out a tweet a couple of weeks ago threatening to sue Apple and OpenAI with this tweet right here. So he says, Apple is behaving in a manner that makes it impossible for any AI company besides OpenAI to reach #1 in the App Store, which is an unequivocal antitrust violation. XAI will take immediate legal action. And now he's doing just that, because X and Grok have not been featured in the App Store's must-have apps section. That's basically, what he's suggesting in this lawsuit. He's saying that Apple was blindsided by major innovations in AI, leading it to team up with OpenAI in a, quote, desperate bid to protect its smartphone monopoly. So I'm not sure what's going on with Elon Musk right now, but I do not see him winning this lawsuit whatsoever. Now, coming back to the performance and the battery life in iOS 26 Beta 8, I always get people asking me this, so I do want to, dedicate certain sections to talking about performance and battery life, since that is one of the most talked about, most requested, things to talk about in these videos. So as far as performance goes, Beta 8 is rock solid. Like, I've had zero issues with Beta 8 on my iPhone 16 Pro or my Pro Max. I really didn't have any issues with Beta 7 either, but Beta 8 is just kind of another level. So you can definitely tell that it's getting close to that final build. Like, you can still tell it's a beta. You can still tell it's early on in the development cycle for 26, because there are some random issues and some frame rate issues and things like that, more visual, issues. But and heating up as well. It does heat up more than iOS 18, but overall it's pretty solid. Like, it's a big difference from Beta 1, which honestly all the betas were pretty stable, in comparison to previous years in terms of the first few betas. So I've really had no big issues with iOS 26, but beta 8 feels rock solid for me. Now, as far as battery life goes, you guys have to tell me what I started with. I'm at 58% right now, but keep in mind I am screen recording, so that does take up quite a bit more battery life. But in my What's New video, if you guys saw my What's New video, it's broken a record. So 2 videos in a row broke a record for the best battery life on a beta as far as, when I first install it and I do those, What's New videos. So battery life has been great on beta 8 as well. And you can actually see this in the visual as well on my main device right here. So you can see I'm not even getting over 200% anymore. I used to get over 200% pretty much on every beta, a couple times a week. But you can see here, I've only gone over 200% one time on last Friday. So before iOS 26 beta 8. But you guys let me know in a comment down below, how is your battery life on your device? So let's go ahead and talk about what to expect next from Apple. So we are wrapping up with August. I cannot believe it's already September. It's almost September. So yeah, so next up is going to be most likely the RC build for iOS 26. Now I would expect next week to be a relatively quiet week because we're most likely not going to see any type of software updates, at least not for iOS 26. It is possible, it is Apple. You really never know what to expect with Apple these days, but typically and based on history, we should skip next week, and that means that we will see the RC build for iOS 26, macOS Tahoe, all the other updates. We will see the RC version released after the event on Tuesday, September 9th. So after the event concludes, that's when all the software updates start rolling out. And like I mentioned before, we should see some new features in iOS 26 that are based on the new iPhones. And then after that, most likely on Monday the 15th, is when we will see iOS 26 officially launch worldwide for everybody. So that will be the public release. That's when, all your grandparents and your parents are going to be downloading the updates, and you can tell them to go ahead and update and get used to that liquid glass, because it will be quite a shock for a lot of people. And that is also the week, by the way, that week of the 15th is also the week we should see iOS 26.1 betas begin. So if you're thinking about turning off betas, you may not want to just yet. All right, so now let's move on to some more Apple news. So let's start with some iPhone 17 accessories that we're going to be getting in a couple of weeks. So we're now hearing, last week we talked about the tech woven cases for the iPhone 17. Now we're hearing about a potential bumper case coming back for the iPhone 17 Air. So if you've been around a while, if you've been having iPhones for a while, you'll probably remember the bumper cases back in the day. Those haven't been in a long time, but now it looks like Apple might be launching some type of bumper case for the Air model specifically. And then we're also hearing from Majin Buu that we're going to have liquid silicone iPhone 17 cases. So of course, the typical silicone cases that Apple does, but this year they will be called liquid silicone apparently, and you can see the different colors that they have right here. And then along with that, we got a look at the crossbody strap for the tech woven cases. So what's interesting about this is going to be, it'll be like a kind of a wrap around your body, to hold your phone, kind of like a bag kind of. But what's cool about this, what's interesting about this crossbody is that it's going to be magnetic apparently. So it's going to attach magnetically instead of relying on, loops or hooks with the material. So this could be pretty awesome. Like this could be another level for Apple, just putting magnets in everything. They already do that with MagSafe, but to do it for accessories like this would be really cool as well. Now I did mention earlier that we have a small update on the AirPods Pro 3, and that update is pretty small because we heard earlier that we might be getting a redesign for the AirPods Pro 3, both the buds and the case, but now we're hearing that it's not really going to be a big change whatsoever. So this was reported on by Majin Buu, and he showed the AirPods Pro 3 case right here, and it's essentially the same as the AirPods Pro 2. So he says that the charging case of the AirPods Pro 3 could be slightly smaller than that of the current model, but it will otherwise be almost identical with no major changes. So if you're expecting to see a redesign with the AirPods Pro 3, just don't. Just stop that expectation so you do not get let down when you watch the presentation. So most likely going to be the same. All the enhancements will be done on the inside. All right, so I know everybody's getting excited for the iPhone 17s this year, but the next 2 years after this are probably going to be more exciting. Both years are going to be more exciting than this year. So let's explain why, because we got a big report this week from Mark Gurman. Pretty much we already knew all this anyways, but he did kind of reiterate this and said that we are going to see 3 straight years of major iPhone redesigns, which is the first time ever in Apple's history that they've done 3 major redesigns 3 years in a row. Because if you think about it, the last time we really got a redesign on the iPhone was the iPhone 10 back in 2017. So this year, we're going to see another type of new phone with the iPhone 17 Air. So of course the Air model is going to be kind of like the MacBook Air, where the emphasis is on the thinness and the lightness of the phone. It's not really going to have anything crazy over the other phones. It's just going to be thin and light. So that's 1 year with a major redesign, because we've never seen anything like that on an iPhone. And then number 2 is going to be next year. We're going to see the iPhone Fold. Now the iPhone Fold is going to be a big deal apparently. So it's going to be expensive. It's going to be niche at first, but I think a lot of people are going to like this because we're hearing that it's going to have multiple cameras. It's going to use Touch ID instead of Face ID. It could potentially have a crease-free display. Like when you unfold it, it may not have a very visible crease, if at all, which would be amazing. It's going to have Apple's second generation C2 modem for cellular connectivity, and also Apple is only testing this in black and white colorways so far. Now, of course, my only concern with the Fold is that it's only going to be 7.8 inches when you unfold it and only 5.5 inches when it's not folded, which is pretty small. Anyways, moving on to the year after next. So in 2027, that's where we're going to see the 20th anniversary iPhone. And allegedly, this is going to be the biggest redesign of all, because it's going to completely change the form factor of the iPhone, because it's said to be just one big slab of glass. So we're not going to have, any type of dynamic island either. So everything's going to be in the screen. So like the camera, the sensors, all going to be in the screen. It's just going to be a big slab of glass with no bezels. I don't know what's going to happen to Dynamic Island, but we are hearing that this is going to be a pretty radical redesign for Apple's 20-year anniversary of the iPhone. So honestly, if you've been waiting to upgrade your iPhone, like if you need one, just get one now. But if you've upgraded recently, you might want to hold off for a couple of years until you see these new iPhones that Apple has in store. And let me know in a comment down below, which one of these are you guys most interested in? I know a lot of people are not really interested in the Fold. I think a lot of people are interested in that because they've just never used one. They don't really understand the appeal, which I think Apple is going to help really the whole industry, kind of adapt to that and learn more about foldables, because I was also like team anti-foldable until I actually used one. And the Z Fold 7 is absolutely amazing. So that has me really excited for the iPhone Fold. But let me know what you think in the comments. And then finally, just as tradition, we have another crazy AirTag story. And this one's more a crazy Find My story. And this is also a very different one because this has to do with a TikTok that went viral a couple of weeks ago. And, there was basically a viral TikTok where an American lady was grabbing another girl and holding her by her ponytail for allegedly trying to pickpocket her. And after that video went viral, the daughter posted a storytime video basically explaining everything that happened. And it turns out that the Find My application played a major role. So basically, when the mom was crossing a little bridge to get to her Airbnb, she had to pass through a crowd of people. Well, when she got to the Airbnb and sat down her bag, she noticed that it was unzipped and her purse was missing. And that purse had her passport, it had cash, cards, everything, along with a pair of AirPods. And thankfully, the mom instantly realized that she could track the AirPods with Find My, so that's what she did. So she followed that Find My signal straight up to the girls that you see in the video being questioned, and one being held by a ponytail. The mom just wanted to at least get her passport back so she can get home, back to the US, if anything. And nothing was happening until eventually the police arrived. And that's when one of the girls thought it would be a good idea to take a random bag that had the mom's stolen metal water bottle inside and smack the mom over the head with it. So she was apparently bleeding from her head and she got a black eye, and she had to eventually go to the hospital for stitches because of this. And that was with the police officer there. So obviously those girls got arrested by the police for, theft, and especially after that assault. But the thing is, none of the girls that got arrested had the purse. The other girl who ran early on had the purse, and she actually ran to a train station, hopped on a train, and got to the airport with the mom's purse that still had her passport and everything inside. So thankfully, the stepdad was on the case and he was hunting down that signal on the Find My application. And eventually, when he got to the airport, he noticed the bag, he found it, and he noticed that the AirPods and the cash were stolen. So both of those were taken, but at least the most important stuff was still there, including her passport and all of her cards. So yeah, a crazy story with a bunch of different twists that I was not expecting. But if it were not for the AirPods, which again, I always tell you guys, you can kind of use AirPods like an AirTag, especially if you don't mind them getting stolen, if it's protecting something of value. So crazy story. They would have never found out who did this at all if it were not for the Find My application and those AirPods. Anyways, guys, that's it for this week. A pretty short one. hopefully next week will be more exciting because we know after next week, every week after that's going to be crazy exciting until the end of the year pretty much. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video as always. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future iPhone 17 and all the other good stuff coming up. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.